Hi, welcome to TV Canada. Today is Thanksgiving here on our side of the border. I think the 4-day separation story of July 4th and Canada Day and Thanksgiving is just funny. When we started and when we stopped being at war, and the days of separation of what it took to take down camp and have everybody go home and start their lives in our countries to be what they are now. Personally, I think the whole border thing was redundant and irrelevant and useless. I think the separation of cultures and people around the world so they could be independent in their thought of what they think is a great governing body of life has made a mess of the planet. You know, that whole universal citizenship thing gone out the window because the child mentality, the 2-year-old mentality is still in there. No matter how old we get as leaders, we just always want to be right and do what we want to do, whether it makes sense or not. So then we're stuck in archaic systems, we're stuck in the dark ages, and it never changes, we don't grow. And then it's the same circle of life, or same cycle and pattern, generation after generation. The only party both of our countries have that's the same is reform. And the first person I learned about that was reform in Canada goes back to like the 1940s, when he was struggling with his career as an RCMP officer, when this country was trying to build its legal system and deal with the old way of when the Majesty, the Queen, was trying to use the police over here, our CMP division, as like a farm of would-be soldiers to send to war front lines if there was ever a need to. The problem with that is religion, because that is the war since the beginning of time, since the first two people that ever existed. Because of what people want to believe is true, divorcing what is true, which I'm not going to get into a debate about, because the truth is the truth, and I don't have to be the one that proves it. It'll happen when it happens, when it needs to happen. But the point of the Bible is faith, and that is a key factor to the relativity of when and if he ever shows himself to who, for the reason of that struggle with our politics and law, which is so fundamental to the core of our countries and why we're all so separate. Understanding right from wrong. So I think it's strange that we couldn't come up with a way to have a continental peace. And this officer from the 40s, who only got 14 years under his belt in the industry as a cop, saw a lot of death, a lot of corruption, because 50% of the time you're sitting next to either your best friend or your worst enemy. Because along with the good people becoming officers and governing peoples in the body of law, the best criminals don't have criminal records, so they're sitting right next to you. And you don't know when they're going to pull that gun out that they have the right to carry and kill you for whatever it is they're storing in the trunk or wherever it is they're going to see whatever. So it made the RCMP a very vicious thing, very dangerous for men. Many would never make it to the suicide years, literally. The suicide years were 14 years. Anybody could live through that period of not committing suicide or becoming criminals and robbing stores or whatever, and getting caught, could generally make it to retirement. But the big spiritual thing behind there, I think, was that the retirement fund, the money for those that can make it to old age. They didn't want it. They didn't want to find a way to have people have it. They want you to work for nothing and, you know, give your left leg wearing a uniform that you say you honor the meaning of, but not give you anything in your retirement, much like the veterans. So it's crazy. But that's a different project of mine. Totally got off topic here. And why I turned this on. I wanted to talk about yesterday's video at the end, when I had gotten off track of the point of the Bobby Orrison and Gary McLark video. I mentioned Lethal Weapon Fast and the Furious. Because I know Richard Donner's supposed to be working on a 5th installment, a manuscript. And I know Gary was in Lethal Weapon. And Fast and the Furious is a project that I have been collectively working on a storyboard for, taking photos and keeping track of information for more than 4 years, relating to that highway that I was talking about and why I've taken a break for truck driving. Because I've driven most of Canada. I did not drive up to Alaska. I didn't get the opportunity to. I mean, I've been up to part way, like halfway through the Alaska highway. But I was with that guy that I said yesterday was always yelling at me because he's old and wants somebody to pick on him, which ruined my nerves for driving. When I got out of trucking school, I was a great driver. Like, I had nerves of steel. Nothing scared me. Nothing got in the way. My driving was great. Now I'm all shook up because I've had near-death experiences several times with other people behind the wheel, and then men attacking me and yelling at me. I almost got stuck outside on the side of the highway in the wintertime in Cincinnati because the driver threatened to leave because I smoked in the back of the booth after I had asked originally if it was okay if I could smoke inside because of how often we'd get to stop while we're driving. Crazy. So I'm like, after everything I've been through, I'm like, I'm going to take some time off to cool chill, because the highway through Hudson Hope to Fort St. John is, I swear it, that it's the deadliest highway in North America. It is the most dangerous highway driven, and yet everybody that lives up there is so used to that winding, narrow road with the weather that changes every 5 minutes. Scout's honor, I swear. You can have rain and then snow and sun and fog all in the same drive. And it's so windy. It's a beautiful racetrack, but the people that live there don't actually have accidents. They don't die. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out statistically why, because it's not logical. Reason would stand to understand that people that live up there would get too comfortable, complacent, and would drive drunk, drive high, drive fast. But because of how dangerous it is, it's actually had the opposite effect on the people in the community. They have learned the deadliness and the danger of that place has caused the opposite reaction in their brain. They actually go the speed limit, or even lower than the speed limit, dependent on the weather. So there's no accidents. They haven't died. But the challenge with my nerves, my nerves of steel, is I need time out to reboot, rebuild. I had a heartache. I fell in love. Relationship didn't work out, so I was very tired and burned out, and now I'm just trying to build up to being able to get back into a truck there, because it's dangerous. And I'm in a truck, and there are trucks that go through, logging trucks mostly and stuff, right? But I have never driven that highway in the truck. I've only been in the vehicles. So I thought one of the things with the Fast and Furious thing, as a joke, is if I could get Vin Diesel as himself up in that area of British Columbia at the right time of year to drive through on camera in a car, I'll make it hard for him by making it be a rental. So it's a car he doesn't know, he's not familiar with. Maybe I'll even make him drive a rental that's a standard. So you could watch that man drive like a granny. And then in exchange, I'm going to drive truck through that highway, because I've never driven a truck through that stretch, to see what happens to my stomach and my face. So it's just relative to how life goes on, and you got to find the strength to keep on plugging, to keep on getting through. And based on the history of stunt work and the importance of the people in it, especially the amount of women are needing for things, projects, and to show that women can do and be equal to men in these things, maybe even more important, matters. So not to give up on my hopes that somehow in this little documentary or film or story that I'm working on for the memory of Bobby and Gary, that I can throw a little bit of myself in there. And maybe that drive in a truck will be part of it. But I have to get free of this prisoner of war in Canada syndrome first. So, but that's another story. But by the way, in closing, the other project is called Decency and Deviance. Most of the stories are all Canadian, but there is one that's from the American side, but I'm not against adding others. Maybe it'll turn a mini-series 1 or 2 seasons. Anyways, peace out. Superwoman Now TV Canada. Just to say that the story is continuing to build in my head. And we'll see where it takes us. Bye for now. Thanks for watching. Keep tuning in. Peace out, Superwoman.